the inside card. In this week's On Profile, we literally have rags to riches story. And Chris McClure, you got to find something unique about John Della Penna.
Hey, when he left South America to come to America and seek his fortune, he had virtually nothing. He became a driver, stepped aside for a while. Now he's an owner. It's a great story.
This week's Owner Profile.
The fact that John Della Penna grew up in Argentina is perhaps news. News that his boyhood idol was Fangio should be no surprise. And it does seem to follow that the young man would want to drive race cars. His father, who owned an auto shop, didn't care for the idea, but was willing to make a deal.
When I was going to high school, my dad promised me that if I graduated with good grades, that he would give me a ticket, a round trip ticket, mind you, to the United States. And he did, and I came here. I told him I probably wouldn't be coming back. I wanted to kind of just come here and stay. I didn't know exactly what I'd find here, but I kind of had a feeling that this is where I wanted to be. And so he gave me the ticket and $300, and that's how I got here in 1972.
2 years later, he had his first racer.
An old Crossley 16F that I bought in 1974. And I remember I bought the whole package from this guy in New York. I bought the car, the trailer, the gears, the spare wheels, tires, everything he had for $3,200.
John and his brother rebuilt that car, launching a career that carried him California through Formula Ford and on to Atlantics. He won Rookie of the Year honors in 1984. That same year, he realized that the other 23-year-olds out there were far more experienced and accomplished. He'd had enough.
I needed to move out of Atlantics into something else. Well, the only other thing at the time was really Indy cars. There wasn't Indy Lights or anything like that. So I didn't have a sponsor. Essentially, I worked, and the little bit of sponsorship money that I found over the years wasn't enough to really carry the full effort. So I funded my own teams and funded myself for many years, and it got to a point where I couldn't really continue to do that.
Over the next several years, Della Penna funneled his energy into brokering collector cars, but he missed the track. His wife suggested a return to racing. He knew a family named Vasser. In 1990, they teamed up for some Atlantic racing. They struggled, regrouped, tested, and went to Road America.
We loaded the car up, went to Road America, and essentially unloaded the thing out of the trailer, and we were fastest every session, qualifying on the pole, and won the race. And that was really, to me, that was the turning point as a team owner.
A year later, they won a half dozen races. Della Penna Motorsports was born, and Vasser moved on.
Yeah, that was a hard time, actually, when Jimmy moved on, because the idea was my kind of timetable was 5 years from Atlantics to IndyCar as a team owner. Started in 1990 part-time. 91 was our first year, so 96 was kind of my timetable to be in IndyCar.
John Della Penna faced another crossroad. Not just any driver would do, so he sat out 1992. Linked with Lynx Racing's Peggy Haas in 1993, he was back, but restless.
In 1993, I started scouting around for what would be the replacement for Jimmy. Somebody that I could work with, that I had good chemistry with, somebody that I had a lot of faith in, that I admired. It had to be somebody pretty special. It had to be somebody really fast, really motivated, with a lot of what I call killer instinct on the track. Somebody that would go out there and want to win every time.
A friend suggested a trip to Sears Point and a look at Richie Hearn, racing the American City Racing League.
I didn't want to leave Atlantics without winning the championship, but I didn't want to hold back Richie's career either. I felt if he was ready to move up and we hadn't won the championship, then we'd move up. And he said to me, he says, look, John, I think it's best for me to just stay in another year. I don't think I'm ready yet.
The Atlantic Championship, their first in 95, ended the apprenticeship. Della Penna was ready to move. It was a nightmare. During 96 and 97, they almost lost the team. They had to have a new car. They had to have a low sponsor. They needed an infusion of new money. They hit on all three. Ralph stayed on, Budweiser came on, they switched to Swift and Firestone, and he stayed small enough to remain hands-on.
I get a setup sheet for every test, I get a setup sheet for every track, I get an update sheet for every setup sheet. So I don't ever want to lose touch of that. I want to make sure that my driver gets the absolute best out of me. I think racing should be simple. You got a fast driver, you got a good package, you should be able to be successful. And when things get overcomplicated, then you start losing that competitive edge. And if we do that, then we won't be successful, and then the whole thing won't work, at least for me.